イエスサー、ハブサムファン&ゲットイットダン。
Welcome to the interview series. My name is Matthew Lieber. I'm hosting this series. This episode is brought to you by Boom Coffee. It is I'll read the mission statement. The Canvas series brings artists, coffee lovers, and the street art community together. Each bag features original art, supports the artist behind it, and helps fund art and mental health programs. Drink with purpose. And I'm hoping to interview the mind behind this series at a future moment. We weren't able to make the coffee yet, but maybe we'll take a little break, get it together, and we'll give it a full review.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, you didn't tell me how to review it. I'm trying to just judge this man's coffee, bro. It's sure it's delicious.
Delicious and nutritious. All right, here we go. The doctor is in.
Hello.
The eye doctor, that is.
How are y'all? How are you?
Man, I'm riding it. Feels great. Feels really tight. You know, and it's like again, I want to thank you for inviting me to Thirsty Thursdays.
Oh yeah,
over at Something Good.
At Something Cool Studios, cool. Yes, over on Cesar Chavez, an institution of the artists, like the art community, and especially the street art community here.
And I feel like even the whole movement of our friendship and our relationship up this point is really shedding light on the type of artist that you are, and like the aim towards bringing people together and just saying fuck it. Let's just do it. Let's just get into it. Why?
No reason to wait.
Why? You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
All things considered, you know.
For sure.
And you shared a little bit about your life story, and it gives a little bit more substance to what's driving you, and hopefully we get into that today.
Yeah, for sure, absolutely. Well, I am eye doctor, obviously. Just eye doctor, not the eye doctor. But I've been doing the eye doctor series. I don't know, just looking back because it just turned 2026, right? And everybody on social media is posting their 10 years ago, 2016, and I'm looking back at where I was at in 2016, and the graffiti park was in its prime in 2016, so I spent a lot of time there painting murals and selling paintings and spray paint cans, actually, too, which you weren't supposed to do, but it was at 11th Street in Lamar. It was like a multi-tiered foundation. That was its original nickname, was the Foundation in the 80s. It was like a failed apartment condo development thing that I guess the ground wasn't sturdy enough for. So once they laid the foundation down, it began to crack and stuff, so they couldn't build up on it. So they just left this foundation, and it's actually right below. It's on Castle Hill, which is right below the only castle in the city, and the highest point, nearest enough to the Capitol to be able to view it. It was actually used as a real castle to defend the Capitol in like the 1800s. You know, against the Mexicans, but hey, we're here now.
The nature of war. Oh, jeez.
But the graffiti park was right below it, and so like it was an illegal graffiti spot for a long time. All through. I wonder if it's on the cover of that. No, there's some pictures I can probably pull up, but all through the 80s and 90s and stuff, it was all, and even the 2000s, it was an illegal graffiti spot, right? And then the Hope organization took it over. With the owner allowing it to be a free use art park for the city for many years, and around 2016 was in its prime. I was spending a long time there, so that was kind of some of the early like growth, like the big steps kind of happened for me as an artist, and around those times. So I was really like cutting my teeth as like using spray paint and stuff. You know what I mean? That was actually the first year that I probably really started using spray paint a ton. Because before that it was all black and white stuff, you know, stuff like this, and that's always been the basis, is like, you know, pen in the hand to the paper. That's been like what it is, pretty simple, you know, but it started to grow and expand a lot more then.
And hopefully I can figure out how to edit, because the works that you had on the floor here, and just even giving more texture to your style, and obviously as is shown on the walls here.
Yeah.
But you feel like that space really helped with like the gestation of your identity as an artist.
I wouldn't say that I mean, aside of myself, sure, yeah. But I mean, Eye Doctor had started probably like 5 or so years prior to that already. So like I've been doing this. I guess I've been doing eye doctor for like 15 years now, which is kind of crazy. But it was just a cultural crossroads where I met a lot of people there. A lot of writers would come in from out of town. You know, they'd come in that spot, maybe painting or whatever. And there was just a ton of artists there painting and just and everyone kind of trying to like work on their skills. You know what I'm saying?
Do you feel like you still have a lot of strong connections from that time?
I don't know. Kind of. I mean, well, no, it's 10 years. It's 10 years. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
it's a long time. A lot has happened in my life, and actually, like one of the things that also started in 2016 is I started doing coke heavily. So it was kind of it's a double-edged sword there for that year, because like I was like on the precipice of really like beginning to take myself and my career further, and then I started putting shit up my nose too much. And that ensued for the next like 8 or so years until like final collapse, which I touched on earlier the other day. But yeah, so it's been a journey. It's been a little bit of a journey, and I'm just like getting back to myself again after all that time.
It's such a trip. I feel like with a lot of artists is like that critical space of like becoming fully expressive and exposed, and it feels so intense to be so raw that there's almost like a need for like a mask or a crutch.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And like
even
how that is like a interesting character development. You know, and of course like all those different elements that need to be confronted around like personal shame and like you know what's really the motive behind it, and like where is it really tied to within our own story of our own trauma, or where we've come from, and just like again like these more historical patterns.
Oh sure.
You know what I mean? Which again I can go on and on about, and I feel like it's always relevant because I think it's part of even being artist is you know expressing patterns and making patterns evident regarding not only our own expression but also these more undercurrent aspects.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, perhaps. I don't know. Patterns is like, I mean, I don't know that it's something that, I think I subconsciously recognize them, right? You know what I mean? Like, I think I've got a pretty strong, like, subconscious mind. It allows me, I try to do my best to be, like, in the moment and just kind of, like, going, like, just doing it, I don't know, just trying to keep it new and, like, fresh and, like, I do the same things. I paint the same things. I've been painting the same things for a long time, right? But I'm not sure. I don't know about patterns like that. I guess there are definitely patterns, of course, right? Absolutely. I just don't know if it's like something that I consciously think of, right? You know what I mean? Maybe now I'm starting to a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, well,
because there's some patterns in whenever I was doing drugs, for sure, right? You know what I mean? And like that was the pattern. The pattern was, hey, I'm gonna go get bag. You know what I mean?
For sure.
But I think that time really has like wiped my brain from like before. You know what I mean? And like who I was before. So it's like I think maybe in time patterns will like reveal themselves perhaps to me. You know what I'm saying?
In a more shearing type of way, of clearing the slate clean so that you can start in your creative process without the baggage. Type of thing. And, you know,
you got him.
That's what we're here for.
That's a good one. I like that.
Yeah. No, but even sort of like what we talked about the first time that we met regarding like your vision for like stepping into a leadership position.
Sure.
And like these different things, and of course like what goes with that type of responsibility is like, you know, what is the aim, and of course like even with as I'm learning about the sticker culture, you know, and obviously what is always evident with street art itself is just like it's more about the immediate impression that lasts from the subliminal.
Sure.
You know, and like that is wanting to conjure like new approaches to just the bullshit that is so endless and itself is what leads to numbing or distracting or, you know, like endless stimulation.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. That's part of the reason why I do fucking street art and graffiti is because, like, you know, it's kind of weird, but I feel like a lull in myself sometimes, you know what I mean? So I feel like a draw to, like, hey, let me go and paint on somebody's shit right now so that I can like feel myself again. You know, it's probably that's unhealthy. Don't do that. You know what I mean? But that's honest though. Like that's honesty. You know, I mean, I work 2 jobs that fucking are draining. You know what I mean? With their fucking monotony. You know what I'm saying? And then that leaves me times where I don't really get to get into the studio as often as I would like, to where I could like scratch that itch in myself, in my own realm. So since I'm like kind of caged, right, I gotta fucking like at least shake the bars a little bit and fucking go and paint on somebody's stuff.
Yeah, it's a weird catch-22. It's just like the artist is stuck in these loops of frustration because of the requirements to exist. Right. So then like when there's time to even be able to sit with the self, then it's all of the momentum of that frustration is pouring out because these things need to be addressed societally and culturally.
Yeah, and personally.
Right. Well,
yeah.
Definitely. That's where it starts, and I think that's really the nature of this entire series. And also, like, you know, nothing can change overnight, because they're just like, this is such a huge, you know, this is like, you know, the shearing force of an iceberg carving a mountain, poetically speaking.
Absolutely, yeah. And then the individual, like, if you want to make changes for yourself, it takes time and it takes discipline and dedication to those ideas. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't just wake up and say, oh, I'm gonna be a fucking badass artist. Some people do, I guess, but it doesn't happen like that.
Right.
But even in other more difficult areas, something like changing a character trait or something like that, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Something like that is gonna take time. Like, I tried to get off drugs. I had the idea of getting off drugs for like 2 or 3 years before it happened, but it took me having that goal and like, I'm gonna, you know, I need to get off of this stuff, and it took conditioning and practice and, you know, dedication and discipline. You know what I mean? So everything moves slowly. Like, everything worthwhile, like, moves slowly.
And
you know
then until, like, of course, that simultaneously, that one day when it was clearly cut, that you severed that tide, and that you had been able to for yourself figure out the healthy solution for that energy to be more expressive versus to be more consumptive or destructive.
Sure.
You know? And like, how then does that fuel the conversation for how we're approaching relationship and how we're finding connection and a communal effort towards addressing that and exemplifying new models while taking deep personal accountability for our own actions? Because, like, again, like, you know, we could say on and on about, you know, like, that person doing those things is very self-destructive, but like, that's they're living their best life because it's not hurting anybody else. But like, you know, how much then do we factor in like the universal woo-woo of it, of like that we're all interwoven, we're all interconnected, that these things are always relevant, and these
ultimately,
these are all patterns playing out.
And you gotta let them. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
like,
100%.
I kind of, I don't know, I guess in a way, like, I forced my own hand, like, down the drain. You know what I mean? Because I felt like in some way, like, I needed it, which is weird to say, right? And it was sometimes it feels like it was a path that I didn't need to take, right? But I chose to take it, and it led me all the way down. You know what I mean? But then I also, at the same time, chose my way back up. You know what I mean?
Right. So again, like, how much power there is in taking self-responsibility versus being a victim to circumstance.
Or being, I mean, you get yourself, and I think drugs can exemplify and be a metaphor for different types of, like, ways of thinking or, like, other types of actions and stuff too. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And those things can be crippling until you find an alternative and like go towards it, right?
Because I mean, that's really where I'm wanting to sort of lean into regarding that question about drugs with artists. Just like, you know, how much do we, like, there's a recognition of programming that has gone on with conditioning and patterns, but like even these voices that are, you know, we could say they're plant medicine and they have some element of sentience within them intrinsically, and then also like these chemical compounds that like are having an effect on our own like cognitive structuring of pattern recognition. You know what I mean? But like, where's that fine line regarding, is this expression a devotion to this like inferior god complex surrounding, like, you know, the worshiping of a drug, and then being like the expression of that, if that makes sense, versus like, again, like, how do we honor it as teachers, move beyond it, like put it where it needs to be, like, accept that it's part of the expression itself, but there's more of a conversation from sobriety.
Sure, yeah, and I think it's like the romanticism of drugs and the artist and like the tortured artist that gets fucked up and does, you know what I mean? Like when I was a teenager, I was looking up to like Jim Morrison and like Jimi Hendrix, who are guys who were like known for getting fucked up. You know what I'm saying? Like Jim Morrison was known to never turn down any drug ever. You know what I'm saying? And he was like the tortured poetic singer dude. You know what I mean? And like Gibby Haynes and the Butthole Surfers are another like group that I look up to, and like they were all freak acid heads who all did a ton of drugs. So for me it was like, oh, if I'm gonna be a badass, right, I need to do a bunch of fucking drugs, which is fucking retarded. But you know, like, and that's
Butthole Surfers, you know, they were all in love when dying. They were doing it in
yeah,
Texas.
no, yeah, they were, yeah. For sure, they were a major influence on us in like the band that I was in back in the day. You know what I mean? And like lifestyle wise as well. You know what I mean? Like not like beyond just the music and shit, also into the like indulging in drugs. And sometimes, and I just think some people are made differently. Some people can handle it. Some people can do that shit, and that's cool for them. You know what I mean? And then some people cannot. Some people become, you know, it can destroy them. You know what I mean? And unfortunately, I'm in that secondary category. You know what I mean? And approaching it like I was invincible. You know what I mean? I just had to I had to watch my art go away. You know what I'm saying? Like my art pretty much went down to a trickle. You know what I'm saying? Like very few pieces done over the last I got off coat a couple years ago now, almost a couple years ago. Oh no, it is 2 years now. After January 9th or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah. So sick.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now I can say over 2 years.
Hell yeah.
But like the 3 or so years before that, didn't do any work. Like hardly any work.
What was like going through your mind during those 3 years of like when you hit that really like?
It's just a cycle. It's just a cycle of doing drugs. I would like find myself driving downtown to pick up or calling my guy without like thinking about, I don't need to do this today. Don't need to do it. Before I know it, I'm in my fucking car. I'm driving downtown. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, and it just becomes such a norm. Like my entire life was wrapped around it. All my friends were wrapped around it. You know, everything that I did. You know, I mean, I guess I still accomplished some things. You know what I mean? Like I had a culture brand thing called Art Cult with a friend of mine. And we were pretty successful. We hosted some graffiti battles. We hosted some events and stuff like that. But it's like you're always fucking like, I don't know, near empty. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You're always near empty, and then like a bag is some fumes for you to keep running off of. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, the weird fixation on adrenaline as being like what keeps me, you know, in the prime of time. You know, and like everything could, you know, you got to ride this edge, and if you lean one way too much or you lean the other way, then you're gonna fall off that.
Yeah,
that
no,
edge,
for sure, right?
Fall. It's a long fall.
Yeah, no,
you know
for
I mean?
Sure. Yeah. I was like, I mean, it didn't happen overnight. You know what I mean? Like it's very gradual.
You got to get up to that point. And
right.
It's like,
no.
how the fuck did that
happen
it's
continually making the choice of drugs over my own well-being time and time again, right? And you know what I'm saying? Like, and that's just like that's the choice you make. You make the choice. So I don't really have the money, but I'm gonna go buy some drugs anyway. Or you know, I'm gonna take out a loan and I'm gonna fucking buy drugs with it. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm gonna do everything that I can. Like try to sell any painting that I can for any amount of money. You know what I'm saying? To like just to achieve it. Oh no, I would do drugs. Yeah, I was averaging like a gram a day like the last 2 years, like a day, and that was like on the low end.
I can't even imagine.
You know what I'm saying? So yeah, and it's just a big old cycle. You know what I mean? And then there's some good people around. There's a lot of not so good people. You know what I mean? There's most people are just addicts who don't have any ambition in life. You know what I mean? Yeah. Well, they might talk about it, but it's just the fucking yakking. Right. You know what I mean? And that's like, it is what it is. You know, and I think I saw that more and more. And, you know, and then I just seeing myself being like not who I was, you know, because I used it as an avenue first to like, oh yeah, I'm going to go out and network, right? I'm going to go to all these art. I used to go to art openings 5 times a week or so. You know what I mean? And just go out and support different people around and just go and check out different art. You know, I was still, at that time I felt like I was still like a pretty young artist. You know, and I was still like, come from a small refinery town.
Texas City, right?
Texas City, Texas. Yeah, it's a small blue collar refinery town with the only culture being fucking big trucks and Trump. You know what I'm saying? Right. Like that's it. You know what I mean?
Program,
so like
how deep it runs. You know?
No, absolutely, and it's an oil, like literally one of the largest oil refinery towns in the country. It was up until like '98, which I was like 10 years old. You know what I'm saying? but had been that way since the 60s, you know? So, like, that's a deep embedded culture of, like, you wake up, you go to work, you put your head down, you drink a beer, and you fucking watch football, and you go to bed, and you do it again. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what it is. You live in the American dream, so shut the fuck up. You know what I mean? You got a job, you get paid well for low-skill labor. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, for most people, that is the American dream, right? You know what I mean? Right. But I wasn't exposed to much culture. I didn't see any graffiti or anything like that until I moved here, you know, and or I guess I started coming here before I moved here too, but even so, like, I was not exposed to, like, I had to, like, seek out culture, you know what I mean? So, absolutely. Like, even for me, 10 years ago, I was still, like, very much felt like I didn't know what the fuck was going on, you know what I'm saying? And then sometimes I still feel that way. It's still, like, you know, like, oh, I didn't go to art school, or, like, I didn't have parents, or, like, you know, an upbringing that was, like, trying to enrich me in any way other than, like, you either go to college or get a fucking job, or you stay here and you get a job. You know what I mean? Yeah, and, like that's all it was. That was the life path, and that was the expected life path. And of course, then I joined a band, and moved here, and, like, that's a different type of, you know, cultural exposure. And around that time, around 18, I decided I wanted to be an artist. I had already known it when I was younger, for sure, but, like, you know, once again, the surroundings and the upbringing was like, no, 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 no. You know what I'm saying? Like, not that, anything but that. Anything but that. You know what I'm saying? Delusional. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Right. And, like, I've been a creative being. You know what I mean? And so it's like, it's kind of funny how it's not I guess potentially stifling it is. You know what I mean? But
it's so interesting, man. Yeah, keep going if you want.
But I used, you know, trying to, like, expose myself to more culture and meet more people, you know what I mean, that are whatever, exposed, enlightened, and cultural, whatever the fuck. Right. And then that turned into me kind of, like, using drugs to, like, network, you know what I'm saying, because a lot of places, you know, stuff happens after hours. Like, a lot of the real, like, I mean, it's true and not true. There's a lot of people who work and are very disciplined, and they keep daytime hours, and they, you know, achieve their goals and stuff too. And there's another group that party their asses off. And like I said earlier, I was trying to go the party your ass off route and network. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
When it turns out, I think the daytime crowd is better for me. You know?
So do you feel like you're in that right now?
No, I'm just kind of stepping back out, because unfortunately now, art openings and shit is a trigger for me, big time. Because I would always say, I would start my night by going to an art show, maybe 1, 2, maybe 3, you know, and getting a drink at each one, you know, or 2, you know, however many I could get, you know, because once again, my goal really was networking, but it's to get fucked up. It was really, you know what I mean, the underlying goal there.
It's so interesting all the time. I have a lot to say, of course. I'm not just saying interesting.
No, sure. No, yeah, it's all good.
But keep going,
but, you know, and it was also based off of, like, social anxiety, and I think in some ways inferiority complex about me stepping into these cultural places and environments that I feel like so unconditioned, I'm not ready for, right? You know what I mean? Like, inferiority complex because of, like, my, like, so typical blue collar, all-American city shit.
Right, and
you know?
Your presence, you know, you hold a lot of space in an environment. I'm assuming, like, you know, an element of yourself is more, there's some aspect of yourself that's more reserved, or,
sure,
you know, like, more in that introspection, because obviously from an early age you were aware that this idea of your culture and your community doesn't fit the narrative of what your soul is wanting to
absolutely,
become,
100%,
and then that's the confrontation of, like, then what is it if that conversation is fully neglected, and I'm trying to be, or the pressures upon me are pigeonholing me into a direction, and that's also the same, like, the same source of my own, like, resources. So, like, if I cut ties with that, then I'm definitely on my own, and, like, what does it look like to actually have the capacity to take responsibility in those ways, you know, like, then of course, like, it's so hard to go into spaces and really be able to be yourself and show up in those ways without, like, again, if you're a man that's holding a presence, then for a lot of, especially, and if it's moved from, like, a deeper calling for meaning, then it can feel intimidating.
Sure, yeah.
You know what
I mean? It did a lot. It still does to this day. You know what I mean? And that's what I use drugs, and I use alcohol and drugs to, like, compensate. right? You know what I mean? Like
Absolutely.
Putting myself in these social situations where I feel sort of like I've always kind of felt that way anyway, like just in life in general. You know what I mean? But like in these spaces, like it was just a coping mechanism, right? You know what I mean? And then it just became the purpose. You know what I'm saying? But now it's a big trigger for me again. It sucks. You know what I mean? Going to art openings and shit. Yeah. Because like my nose wants to go. You know what I'm saying?
Really?
Like, because
Pavlovian conditioning around that space.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, because there's the bar. Yeah, I could definitely go over there and
Do you
get.
feel like it's still fueled by like a quality of social anxiety?
Sure. Yeah,
You know what I
for
mean?
sure. Absolutely. No, for sure. Yeah, and that's something that that's what I'm drawing attention to now, and I feel like I'm just beginning to like learn to navigate those spaces in a way that I can. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and that's gonna take practice. You know what I mean? It's gonna take practice, and it's gonna take a willingness to get there. You know what I mean? And it's me addressing something deeper
Right,
than
because
just
it's-
going to art shows. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's addressing something deeper internal in myself that whatever the inferiority complex and like the whatever those social anxieties and whatever the fuck it is. You know what I'm saying? In different degrees.
It's like the tone of maintaining like a vibe. You know what I mean? And like
Maybe.
how like again like what in my opinion from my experience of like I've call it my own flavor of autism, but like I don't have a premise of like awkwardness or like feeling embarrassed.
Sure.
You know what I mean? But like because of that I've had to learn a lot of like, oh wait, like I have no problem talking about this, but like for whatever reason these people, something is going on where this is like off color or off putting. You know what I mean? Like how then to like, but like there's something behind that then that is worth exploring, because like that's what again like that's because how fucking boring so many of different like like podcast spaces have become, because it's even that is like repeating programs because of like people, in my opinion, from what I witness, and like I'm just making a judgment call here, but they're afraid of like presenting themselves in a way that is outside of like the image that they're trying to maintain, that they're very
It's a character.
Right.
Yeah, right.
And
You step into a lot of spaces. A lot of people do it in different degrees, right? You know what I mean? Like I do it. I put on a character in certain spaces. You know what I'm saying? If I'm on the sidewalk trying to sell some paintings, yeah, you're gonna get salesman-eyed art. That's what you're gonna get. You know what I mean? I mean, there's still a string of like the motivation is still from me sharing like my art, which comes from the deeper motivation within myself, right, to find my place in the world or whatever. You know what I'm saying? And we get different characters in different spaces, I think, all the time, right? But obviously we should aim to entirely be ourselves at all times, right? You know what I'm saying?
Because we're then getting into again like the bigger dilemma regarding mental health.
Sure.
Of, like how that can create multiple personalities because of like I don't confront that personally.
Sure. Yeah.
It's just again like what the analogy that I always use is like I know my instrument. And I've taken the time to understand my own styling. Right. And like this is like a space where this is like a jazz between Matt and Eye Doctor. Right. You know what I mean? That it's still authentic for me. Because, of course, there's a space here for me to express myself, but like it's more about like being in your realm and like really.
Yeah, and I'm being authentic too. Like it is. I mean, I say that to a degree, right? You know what I mean? It's more of like an arena. You know what I'm saying? Like, as a person, you're, like, in different arenas. You know what I'm saying? And they kind of take sometimes different approaches to have, like, a result that is, like, good for everybody. You know what I mean? Because I could be myself and talking to someone who's going to react in a different way depending on perhaps my tone. Or, like, the kind of jokes that I make. Or the explicits that I use. Or whatever. You know what I mean? And I don't want to be necessarily authentically 100% myself in all situations. And then I become off-putting to a person, right? Or impolite, right, to a person. You know what I'm saying? So you have to like in some way, take that kind of stuff into account so that at times your point can come across better. You know what I mean? Like it's okay, I think, sometimes to sacrifice a little bit of who you are to drive home a point or to reach someone. You know what I mean? With whatever your message may be. Right?
There's a real fine line between that raw exchange and like purposely being an asshole to get a rise and then be like, well,
I used to do that when I was a kid all the time.
You're just emotionally undeveloped.
I was. I used to do that shit when I was younger and I was in my 20s or so. I would just poke at people because pretty
Right.
pretty sharp. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
And people, if we got into any kind of debates, I just like usually run laps around them and to make them look dumb, like try to like agitate them more. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you seem like a pot stirrer for sure.
yeah, but like I don't know.
But again, it's just like that.
I was young, and
and like you're trying to find something that is entertaining for you in genuine ways, and like you're sick of the superficial cordialities, and like okay, let's see what's.
Also, I was a little bit of an egotistical prick. Right. you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, like, again, it's part of a boy becoming a man type of thing.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
for sure. Yeah, just to flex on somebody for no real reason. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
But I mean. It's pecking order, right? Life's pecking order in some ways, Some ways. And all the time, a lot of times I was looking for someone to meet me. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? And it happens. It definitely happened. You know what I mean? Right. Which is great. You know what I mean? And that's what you I think really ultimately searching for is connection, right? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like see if someone can match me eye to eye or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, sharpening the edge.
Oh, for sure.
And then simultaneously how to. Soften the edge in different ways, and like again, like the mastery of the tool, and like knowing where it's appropriate to make the incision versus just fucking around and like being a
let's just chop this arm off. You could have just fucking stitched up the cut. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and like again, like how powerful fear can be.
Yeah,
and like that even it keeps people on their toes, but obviously it makes a person put their guard up and become defensive.
Sure.
There's a hostility inside of that. And of course, like, I think that goes, we're in a lot of ways in the realm of like, the confronting space and the dilemma of like street artists altogether.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. One of which I love. I love vandalism and I love street art and I love graffiti. You know what I mean? Like, they're cool. Like they're just cool. Like, not all of it's cool. Some of it sucks. You know what I mean? But hey, It is what it is. Everyone has their opinion. You know what I'm saying? And the cool thing is, it's just once again, it's an arena where like anyone can throw in. You know what I mean? And you might suck, and that's cool. You know what I mean? And you might be great, and that's also cool. You know what I mean? And you so and so might not get along. You might have totally different messages. Whatever. Doesn't matter. You know what I mean? The cool thing is like the unifying string in all of it is a little bit like a touch of rebellion. You know what I mean? No matter what. You know what I mean? Like, it's usually whoever is engaging in it, the string that ties us all together is a little bit of anti-establishment. You know what I mean? Just a tinge. Like, whatever shade it's in, it's there. You know what I mean? And, like, that's what I really enjoy about it, And murals and shit are whatever, okay? They're fine. They're not street art. That's a fucking caged animal on display.
Interesting. Because that's where I was going with this whole... Because, again, like, if in ways you could... create an analogy of like what you were just expressing is like part of like being in the jungle, the urban jungle,
right?
But like in that is like a crucible for like real cultivation of true expression and like getting whatever however you want to say it of like going through that gauntlet to then like be able to renounce a lot of the bullshit and like take account of that, and then like how do you rise into some quality of refinement where there's a desire for culture and society to really be aware of these patterns and be aware of the facade of like civilized beauty that is very like bleached and very sterile and like it's all
target.
It's all theater, exactly. It's like how like and like recognizing that like credit where credit's due. It's really like engineering marvels. A lot of beauty is intrinsic, but like the underlying issues that are left unaddressed regarding like the huge gap between like resource access. You know what I mean? And like again, on and on that whole thing goes. And like where does it stop? Nobody knows.
Yeah,
but it goes into murals. Like, would you?
No, absolutely. Yeah,
you know
for
what I mean?
sure.
Like, you feel like you'd be a sellout if you got into murals?
No. Because I did my work.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, but it's also not required. You know what I mean? Like, it's fine. Like, it's okay. Not everyone's supposed to do fucking street art. Not everyone's supposed to be vandals. You know what I mean? And a lot of people, they move beyond it. They go from that realm and they move beyond it. Some of them in an authentic way, and some like in a valid way, and some people in a not so valid way. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because of what hurts and what sucks the most is a lot of people use the edginess of like street art and graffiti. You know, they might like, oh, I'm painting a mural at, let's say, the graffiti park, right? Which is like a surrounding environment that all is all tagged up and all these things. So you get that edginess, right? Like in a safe place. You know what I'm saying? And like, you then people capitalize on it because the public doesn't know the difference. You know what I'm saying? Like the public doesn't. There's, you know what I mean?
That's
and there's
the big problem I have with what you're saying.
Well, which is
now.
fine though, because like, to be honest, you know, like the number of street artists, like I'm not including graffiti artists. You know, the difference between graffiti and street art. Graffiti is letter based, illegal, whatever, vandalism, right? And street art is image based, illegal, right?
Gotcha.
So that's the definition, and then everything else, anything that is legal or whatever, is mural. It's not considered street art. And my definition of it, you know what I mean? That way I can make the three distinctions.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because there's image-based illegal, there's letter-based illegal, and then there's legal, which is on the other side of the fence. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the number of quality street artists that have come through in the last, since I've been doing it, 15 years, that actually like get up a lot, there's not many. You know what I mean? It's just not many.
For sure.
It's like takes, I don't know. It takes a special person, I think, you know what I mean, to have that drive, and then on top of that, the artistic skill, or at least the desire. You know what I mean? Because I sucked 10 years ago. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like at that point, I was like kind of like starting to get there. I was just barely starting to crawl. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
And
you know that game.
yeah, for sure, it takes time, and but so the arena for the legal world is going to be bigger, because there's going to be more people who have the skill set and the artistic expression that's going to be of a quality that's going to be able to deserve, you know, pretty much that a company or somebody's going to pay them to do it, right? You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Because, like, you know, no one's just going to pay some, oh, like, cool, you've been doing street art for 15 years and you still suck. Like, no one's going to pay you for a mural. I mean, it might. If you've gotten up enough, that's the way that you like maybe overcome that, is by just blasting your shit on everything, and then you get some kind of value
By
because
means
of that.
Relevancy of
Right.
Exposure.
Sure.
You know, it's
Right,
like,
exactly.
It's not what you know, it's who you know, and those
Sure.
sort of ways with networking, and like it sounds a lot, tying it back to, you know, the whole thing that you were saying about, like, you know, the day people and the night people type of thing. Use different words.
Sure,
but, like,
yeah.
you know, it's like I feel like maybe, especially as you're coming up in age. You know,
Yeah, I'm getting there.
You're not an old man.
No.
But like, you know, you're
Definitely don't
wanting-
feel it, man.
Yeah. But like you're kind of getting. Tell me if I'm wrong making this judgment claim, but like you're kind of getting sick of and tired of like sort of that the patterns that sort of arise within the frustration of different qualities of street art, and like wanting to be able to get your name and your expression out there and find connections that have like substance within what is being talked about.
Sure.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
of course. Yeah, I mean, that's always the aim, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Is to find peers. It's just like, that's just the aim. You
And
know
it's
what I
like,
mean?
It's like, again, like even going back to that point that you made of like, for whatever reason, we're born into lives that we're living, and like some of us have to scrape by and try to, you know,
Sure,
really
yeah.
figure out how to fucking be a human in genuine ways, and then some people are really brought through a very nourishing environment
Right.
where like there isn't really, and like that it makes sense for them to be, you know, well combed and like
Sure, yeah.
very structured and very proper, because like that's just the etiquette of their environments. But there's always a curiosity of like the edge,
Sure.
you know,
Yeah,
these qualities of like, you know, like almost in different ways, like our own like tribal indigenous nature, by like, you know,
Right.
having to
There's the
confront-
others. There's the us and them, right? You know what I
Right.
mean? There's the us and there's the them, and like the them are always curious. It's like, what are they doing over there? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, a lot of people are like, you know, I think initially are like, fuck them, they suck. That's like,
Oh,
I think
for sure.
like a natural thing that we do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, repulsion to
It's-
the unknown.
Right. Yeah, Exactly. Just to like, I mean, it's for our own safety. I think it's like kind of impressed upon us. But you know, and there's always curiosity about what the other side's doing. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's just pretty intrinsic. You know what I mean? Unless you're just one of those people who's like, I don't want to know. I don't even want to know. I know him and I know her, and that's all I need to know.
Wow,
you know what I'm saying?
That's some Texas City shit right there. Huh?
That's some South shit.
Yeah, for sure.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's again, this conversation goes in a lot of different spaces regarding like the back country, just what's going on generally speaking within like those populations of the United States.
Well, Texas City is not like hillbilly or like it's Texas. Very Texas and American. It's very American. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
but the flavor of Texas is very different. Like we could say a lot about Mississippi and Louisiana and even Alabama and parts of Tennessee and up into Illinois and Missouri. You know, Arkansas.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like there is a flavor that is very prevalent, and although each area has its distinctions, generally speaking, there's a tone and a quality. But Texas is, and I, from my opinion and from my travels, because of like how resource rich it is natively, and like that obviously with it being such a corridor down into Central America and all the movement, and it's certainly more. What I notice is that there's more of a because of the exposure and because of how things are moving versus stagnant and like sort of like festering, that there's more of a stronger mind, and like it might be a delusional mind, but at least there's a capacity to argue it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
And I feel like that's a certainly like a defining characteristic of Texas.
Yeah.
And like of course.
And imagine Texas City.
I'll
Imagine Texas City, Texas.
I'll have to take a trip over there.
Yeah, no, for sure.
I'm the eye doctor.
And they'll be like, "Who the fuck is that?"
Do you have any work up over there?
No, hell no. Well, I've got a couple of stickers that have like made it for years and years, you know. But it's like on the. Actually, no, it's on the handicap sign on the fucking Mexican restaurant that everybody eats at. You know what I mean?
Okay, everybody going by Texas City, go to the Mexican restaurant and look at the.
You know what it is.
Yes.
They know. Whoever's watches in Texas City, you know which Mexican restaurant I'm talking about.
By exposure, man. We're getting it out there.
There might be a couple other things. I don't know. Like, actually, Texas City is obviously where like street art stuff started. But I was in a band, and we wanted to promote our band, right? So we printed all these stickers, and we put them all over the city. And that was actually like my first, like, whoa, this is sick. Like we just put them up. We put them up on all the drive-throughs and like everywhere. People were like, "Dude, we see your shit everywhere." You know what I mean?
Did that relate to exposure for you?
What do you mean?
Like were people? That gravitating attention towards your music?
Of course, yeah. Well, and at the time I was just the manager of the band, so I was just like, well, let's see how we can get some hype going. I'm in high school. You know what I mean?
Nice, man.
And so we went around and we did that, and then we spray painted the band's name like on the entryways to the schools. You know what I mean? Like right there before you went in, because we didn't want to get too close to the school and like get it on camera or something. So we did it right on the entryway. And then everybody saw it, and then I was selling the demos that we had. I was selling demos for like $5 a pop. And
you were a cool guy.
I guess, I don't know. But I think I sold like 200 of those things. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
At a school that like our graduating class is like 350. So, there's probably probably 2,000, maybe 2,000 in the whole school. You know what I mean? But that was my first exposure, and actually I haven't thought about that in a long time.
Amazing, man.
But that was my first exposure to like street art and guerrilla marketing, really. I guess you could say.
Any backlash? Did anyone come to you and be like, "Yo, what's up with your band shit everywhere?"
Yeah.
So no real issues.
No, and then what's funny though, it had the 3 band members' face on the stickers. It didn't have my face, but it had the 3 band members on there. So. Dead giveaway.
All right. Well,
who
did
this?
For anyone, stickers work, and there's no repercussions.
This is a different time.
So tell me.
So like now, so at the time, even I started doing. First thing I did with Eye Doctor was these stickers. These cloud eyes. I'll draw one in a minute and show you. But that's the first thing I did. I would draw them at a full sheet, like shipping labels, and I'd cut them out and I'd put them up everywhere. I put up thousands of them. And at the time, like you go around downtown now, there's stickers on everything, right? There's stickers everywhere on everything. At the time, I was the first person to put a sticker on a lot of these signs. Like it just wasn't around. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't as prevalent. So like that time, you put a sticker that pops up oh shit, oh wow, where's this coming from, right? Now you're lost in a sea of bullshit, really. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Again,
and sorry to all you sticker heads. I know you love your stickers and your sticker bombs, but
it's diluting the potential potency.
Right, yeah, for sure. It's just it's visual noise a lot of times.
Cats
you know what I'm saying?
A boombox. Fucking.
Hey, Cat's Cole was my old roommate, my old studio mate. His shit is still around here.
I apologize.
Shout out to Cat's Cole. I got some stuff around here for it's his too. But I what you mean, and that I think is like that's the cheap attention grabbing type of street art. That isn't that like 80% of bad art. You know what I mean? That people put up. A lot of it comes from quick digital designs that are meaningless or close to meaningless. You know what I mean? And that just fills the fucking environment with. I don't know. I hate to sound like a shit talker, but if this applies to you and if you feel some kind of way about it, step your fucking game up.
Well, it's so interesting, even in this whole like that you in many ways, and like I know you might not want to take like claim over this, but you set the momentum in motion for sticker art within different aspects of Austin, right? So
sure,
like, in different ways.
I mean, I wouldn't say that. Oh, I started it. You know what I'm saying?
Of course,
but
that's
like,
what I was saying.
because Obey did it back in the '80s, right? You know what I mean? Like, and I wasn't. But it just wasn't nowhere nearly as prevalent as it is now. You know what I mean?
And so it's like in the emergence of culture, like it's become impulsive and it's driving and it's like very attention grabbing. So people are doing it.
Right,
so it's like, okay, how do we consolidate it and how do we structure it in ways that are like meaningful and bringing up, like that it's driving towards an aim.
Right.
And that it's like tasteful in different ways, but also is like, sort of like piss and shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, the thing, I mean, it's... I think it's just time. It just takes time, and it takes a drive towards something better. Towards wanting to be something better. You know what I mean? Like, cool, you made your first design, and you want to print 1,000 of them and go put them up somewhere. Cool. That's your first design. You know what I'm saying? Like, these are all individual designs. These are thousands and thousands and thousands of these things. You know what I mean? I don't know. I can't recall how many. You know what I mean? Yeah. And only through that amount of time, you know what I mean, and dedication to want to be better and to create something unique and one of a kind. And thank you. But that's, I don't know, what should be the aim. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Absolutely.
And like you can stay at a base level and that's cool, that's fine. You know what I mean? But you have to want more for yourself. You know what I mean? And that's why I've been why I don't do stickers anymore. I still do some hand drawn stickers every now and then. They're for fun, really, and actually kind of a community thing I want to start. I was doing bugs a lot. I'm going to start screen printing some bugs. But I want other artists to also make bugs so that we have different styles of bugs around. You know what I mean? Especially like I walk and take the bus and take Lime scooters and stuff. So I'm on the ground level all the time. You know what I mean? So like I put a bug there. It looks like, like a little bug. Like where I walk too, there's a bug right there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But I would love to see someone else doing bugs too. Like, draw some bugs up. Draw some one-of-a-kind bugs and just draw them and put them around.
Yeah, because it just adds a playful...
Yeah.
Like, and then that it was Eye Doctor that did it. And, like, it's just more... Again, it's more wholesome.
Yeah, it's more fun.
It adds texture to the sterile bullshit, bleached out.
Yeah. Exactly.
You know what I mean?
I get
well, maybe it's a good time to see if coffee is accessible right now. I'd love to bring those down and we can show the camera. You know what I mean? We can get a little bit more into the imagery. So
like this guy here.
We're taking a little pause for a moment. We're going to get the coffee together and then we'll be back. So, good start. We didn't even get to any of these formal questions.
We will be right back.
I'm doing edits on these videos in the library, and the second half of the Eye Doctor interview was garbage. Audio-wise, I forgot to plug in the microphone, and I took the laptop out in the hallway, and it was still not good in the first place with catching all that. So I'm learning as I'm going. I apologize to everyone, and especially Eye Doctor, but it gives me an excuse to interview again. We're going to get more into the Vandalism Education Program. I still uploaded the entire video for the sake of the integrity of the project, but we're going to make it happen again. Thanks for your patience, and all right, enjoy the rest of it, I guess.
We will be right back.
Sure.
Like even what you're doing with this paper, man. I don't know if you want to bring that down and we can look at it. If you want to go through any of those, just if there's something that is in your process or.
Well, this is the sickest one right now. These games are giant though. They're gonna look kind of funny on the screen. It's gonna be hard for me probably to get it in the frame well. But
let's see. I'll take a photo of it definitely.
You know? Yeah.
And then people can look at it. I'll do editing probably.
Oh, you know what would be cool? Here, right?
There we go.
And then I was like, I pulled one down.
Yeah, okay. You want to try that?
We can.
Well, only if you. Yeah, that doesn't feel like too much. Yeah. Otherwise, what I'll do is I'll take.
Oh, this full stack. Hands, it just like not want to go at all.
Good. Hey.
Devil one. Yeah. Demon actually painting. Before, like, I would always try to like eye doctor these characters and stuff. They're like supposed to be these kind of like more neutral type of like all knowing. You know what I'm saying? So like if they've got a face on them and stuff, like that means like they represent, that's kind of what they represent in a way. They either represent that or they represent like the multitude of man, like the different thought processes and stuff they go on and like the fall of emotions and like how you can change from one thing to another. You know what I mean? Like and go through all of them, quickly. But I've been working on stepping away from those more like neutral type of things, neutral type of aesthetic and expression on the faces and stuff, to painting my demons. You know what I mean? You're kind of embodying them
that are more
in a different way. They're
Would you say?
They're supposed to have like a touch of evil, like a tone of evil. You know what I'm saying? Like, not like overly. I mean, I'm just mainly I just make them. I make them spiky, and I give them like sharp teeth. You know.
I mean, that's a rich territory to get into regarding demons and our relationship with them, and again, like even going into that whole tribal aspect.
Coke demon right there.
Oh shit! Yeah, he's a scary one. That guy.
I keep him. You know,
he's small eyes, man. You know, he's not saying anything. He's just observing. Huh?
Mm-hmm.
That's a tricky one, man.
Yeah, for sure. But it's kind of cool to like embody it. Because most things are not even as far as someone to demonize them, or they're just like character flaws. Most character traits and stuff aren't even so bad that you like demonize them. You know what I mean? I mean, like my coke addiction, probably yes. You know what I mean? But like other flawed traits, they're not demonized. Because it's a strong thing to demonize something, right? You know what I mean? But I think really repeatedly it's the kind of like the addiction demon that I'm more and more trying to like get out, which is actually ironic though, because in a way I become addicted to making art. You know what I mean?
Right.
I become addicted to making art and social media in some aspects too, by like sharing my content through social media and stuff. You know what I mean? Like there is a reward center, you know what I mean, that happens with sharing and likes and reactions and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
It's like quality of validation.
Sure. Yeah.
But yeah, it's obviously part of the conundrum of an artist is like you gotta be able to make yourself relevant in the vast sea of endless stimulation where like if you're lucky you'll get the attention of someone for 2 seconds only for them to just be, oh, that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
And like, all right.
Yeah.
Oh, look at this fucking dog.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
No, I know. Like, yeah. It's funny, it gives you a 3-second timer. It tells you on Instagram, it's like, how many people viewed over 3 seconds?
Wow.
So 3 seconds is apparently some kind of significant marker. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
making those impressions for sure.
Yeah. So it's funny though because it becomes a compulsion, but it like, you bring up the question, is it a healthy compulsion? Like that's what I think of, you know what I mean? And like, how do I turn that into something that is like healthier? You know what I mean? And use it in ways that are good, like
that ties really nicely into the third question.
Okay.
Yeah. How do you view the concept of healing, and how do you personally prioritize health in relation to creative expression? It's just as a thought. And
Yeah,
like,
sure. Yeah, well, healing is, it's kind of ongoing process. It's not something that's just like, oh, I'm fucking healed. You know what I mean? Like, look at that scar. You know what I mean? Like, it's always
Absolutely.
susceptible to being reopened. You know what I mean? So, like, healing is just, and I think it's just, like, depending on what is being healed to you, or, like, what is your satisfactory level of existence where you feel enough, right? You know what I mean? And that's different for every person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And some people need it more than others, Me as a street artist, maybe I need it more than others. I don't know. But that's a personal thing. You know what I mean? And for me, it's kind of, I try to better myself all the time. You know what I mean? I'm very reflective, you know what I mean, and contemplative. And I'm always trying to do better for myself as an individual. And why did I say that?
Well, it sounds good.
I'm trying to, where did I go with it? Dang it, I lost
Take
it.
your time. It's still there.
Be in the weed,
Oh,
bro.
shit. Well, we're not talking shit on the coffee.
The weed's great. The coffee's great.
Great.
Yeah, it's good.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's an endless pursuit. Right?
Fucking enough. I'm
Yeah, I was gonna say,
I'm
so that's like it's just unhealthy as possible. You know what I mean?
And simultaneously, if there's a total neglect of the serious problems and like you're bloated, like very
Sure.
just like this thing is like I'm enough,
Right, right, yeah.
but then it's again like
There's an ignorance in that. There can be ignorance in
right,
that.
and like the demons, how then the demons actually are controlling the psyche, and that it's the illusion of freedom, right? Of
Right.
like the endless compulsionary uh drive, where like the idea that that's being in flow, but it's just chasing one hunger after another.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Right. But that's the universe, though, ain't it? You know what I mean? Like that's the universe. The universe grows and grows and grows and grows and evolves. Like that's inherent, like into the code of the universe. Everything, it evolves.
But
you know what I mean? And
there's
like,
such a difference, even bringing up roaches.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like there's a very like we could definitely make we're on in agreement that a roach is a part of the universe, and also like the orchestral movements of a larger machine that is our solar system. Like
Sure,
these colossal beings that are also they have a quality of sentience, and they're in a uniform, like it's predictable where they'll be.
Right.
Whereas the sporadic movements of a roach, and like why there's such a repulsion to like what a bug represents, of like it's unpredictable, and like it is
could be pretty predictable. There's an equation. You could map it out for sure if you wanted to. If you had enough information, the ability and the power to do so, you could.
For the sake of challenging
it wouldn't
this
be,
point, absolutely.
But it wouldn't be random. No, because nothing is random, right? Like you're just like the illusion of freedom. You know what I mean? The illusion of freedom is both ways. Like it's tied to us, is tied to the universe. Like tied to the universe. The universe, nothing in the universe is going to act outside of character ever. You can always measure it, right? Same thing with people. We can't escape who we are. We can't escape our surroundings. You know what I mean? We have that illusion of freedom, which is great, and which allows you to like pursue things as an individual, right? And like care about the things that are like going on in your direct gravitational field, you might say, right? You know what I mean?
And you're bound, so you're in essence you're bound to the patterns that generate your.
Not to say you can't break them, but if you break them, you meant to break them.
Yeah,
you're part of another bigger, larger system. Right?
So it brings in the effect of a catalyst of introducing new approaches to the conversation altogether.
It's
and
an
like
evolution. It's a growth. The same way that like all the atoms in the universe all started from hydrogen, right? They all evolved from hydrogen to all of the things you see. It's inherent in like literally in the makeup of the things that are. And some of those growths are difficult or violent, right? Or explosive. You know what I mean? And like that's just kind of the nature of the universe. It is what it is. Well, it's not to like rest on your laurels on that either. You know what I mean? You're not to say, oh well, no, I can't escape. You know, the fatalism of life. You know what I mean? Like, what am I gonna do? I just might as well fuck it all, right?
Right.
Give yourself a point. Like, that's what it's for. You give yourself a reason.
Right.
Chase it. Chase something.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
like
whatever it is.
All right.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, it's like, in this mortal form, this is like an illusion,
Right?
upon dimensional matrix that is like incomprehensible. It's like great.
Sandcastle, bro. Make it pretty. You know what I mean? And it's gonna get washed away. Don't fight it. Don't, like, it's gonna happen.
But then it becomes a contemplation of like, break the spirit of understanding that the sand near the shore is supposed to be used for the development of a sandcastle. Like, it inspires the engineering mind to build something that can stand structurally the test of time, but like the flows, the current of nature will inevitably, and it's like, okay, well, like, but like if a person, and this is often how I view in this concept of like people that are wanting to build their homes on the shore because they want the endless view,
Sure, yeah.
and it's like, dude, you know that like it's just a matter of,
they're literally on
a matter of time.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like it's just like
that's an acceptance of fate,
right?
Right.
Like why not try to like
make it as beautiful as possible? I'm gonna see as many sunrises on that shore as I can before the hurricane comes.
Or just build a sensible area.
Sure, yeah. But what you want in life. Yeah. What makes you comfortable? What makes your life comfortable? Whatever. If you value more your security and your longevity, that's great. Have your past what's the person to silent environment, but enjoy it. For being what it is.
That's a very good point. Yeah.
So like it's okay. It's cool. Don't worry about it. You know what I mean? Like you do your thing, I do my thing. You know what I mean? Like it's all relevant.
Pressing very, very closely, very close to me regarding
what is that?
Because it's always this dance regarding like, you know, at least from my walk of like, oh man, I really believe that there's such a potential, untapped potential within humanity, and like it's just a matter of like really bringing these things into consideration and like really bringing awareness to people about their own nervous system and how they're really reactive, endlessly reactive, and they identify with reactivity as their character.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And like that's reinforced because like their relationships are confirming that pattern of behavior. You know what I mean? So like it just spins and spins, and like obviously like there's the few of us that are born within these environments that for whatever reason within our own sentience that we're like, this is not fucking me.
Sure. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like why is it that there are so relative to the total population, like why is it that so few are born with that state of mind intrinsic, and that they're unwilling to compromise on that, even if it brings them to death and endless suffering and like a tortured soul?
Well, it's not necessarily. Like, I mean, I grew up in Texas City, right? Like, in the heart of oil production and refining in the country. You know what I mean? A lot of people are pretty satisfied with their lives. Pretty happy. You know, they're fine. Hey, I got a good job. It pays me well. You know, I work about 40 hours to clock out. I got my wife, 2 kids, whatever. You know, we got the bar down the street. You know, whatever. I'll eat the same freaking cheeseburger every Thursday. And it's okay. You know, people do like that security. And, like, those are the people that keep the structure of society up around us. And that's okay. That's great. You know what I mean? It's a small percentage of people that influence the way that the populace thinks and the way that society moves. And, you know, so it doesn't necessarily have to be everyone, and it never will be. You know what I mean? It's not supposed to be.
Such a solid point regarding just the nature of how these things are moving. And, like, I 100% agree with that sentiment. But my biggest issue of, like, because those people, again, like, and it's very beautiful, and, like, I would never understand it, but I, like, value it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's just like, I envy it.
Yeah.
You know?
Because, again, it's like, you know, how...
Simplify. Like, life simplified. You know what I mean?
Grass is always greener, just it's hard to mow type of thing.
Sure.
You know, it's like that awareness of... My whole thing is just, like, the
the endless corporate greed that has built upon itself this illusion that it's maintaining these mindsets, and like it's stripping away like access, or like just like the allocation of resources in responsible and intelligent ways, where like people are doing these jobs and they're not veiled with their understanding of what's going on surrounding that environment. You know what I mean? Where there's more of like, okay, hey, we've all come to terms with the savage state of humanity, and we're wanting to address it to bring more of a harmonious dynamic, despite the knowing that like chaos is intrinsic to the model, but like we don't need to be fueling the chaos and be like, oh, well, this is the fucking way it is.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
You know?
Yeah. Because
it goes into that whole like, trying to building the wall on the beach to protect the sandcastle, and it's just like, dude, like,
what? But that's a good point, because that's something I didn't think in that equation, in that metaphor. You could build a wall in front of that sandcastle and enjoy it longer. That's kind of a good analogy for society. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, we build up these safeguards, you know what I mean, to hopefully, keep some sort of civil society running. You know what I mean? As best as possible for as many people as possible. You know what I mean? But it's always teetering. You know what I mean? It's on a razor's edge all the time. You know what I mean? Because typically, also as humans advance, they discover technologies and resources that maybe they don't understand the full scope consequences to, and then they exploit it. And then they're like, "Oh, 50 years, 100 years later, like, oh, damn, uranium gives you cancer, dude." Yeah. It's like, cool. All right, sick. Well, it might have been nice to like do further research, because that's not how humans act. You know what I mean? We're still like a freaking stupid society. You know what I mean? Like we are. We don't know shit. We don't know shit. We got the internet. Cool. We got the internet. Awesome. You know what I mean? And like, AI will accomplish all of these things way before we would ever. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Like naturally, it would be thousands of years probably without the implementation of AI.
That's the wild card of this whole equation, and of course, like we're witnessing again. Like it's crazy. I always use this analogy. Like the bicycle was invented in 1860, and then allegedly, you know what I mean? Like in 1816, the bicycle. 1969, a rocket ship on the moon. You know what I mean? And like this. In ways like the engineering marvels of the what the fuck is it called? Industrial Revolution.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And like that is so
and
like
minute amount of time.
Yeah, but we again, it's that sophomoric conundrum of like the wise fool of like we've developed far beyond our capacity of understanding responsibility, and it's like the similar analogy of like going back to the point around like you, just because there was the impulse within yourself to just explore sticker art because like you found that to be meaningful and like fuck the rest, this is the best for me. You know what I mean? But like it's gotten to the point of like you have a sort of a intimate relationship with it to some capacity where like you're wanting to make it more meaningful. Because like you have to change the game because like it's not the same anymore.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's like, okay, well, how to really consolidate and like factor in all of these qualities that like we definitely know now that these are patterns. You know what I mean? And like how in the awareness that this is a pattern and like that we're in many ways like these industries are 100% fueled by impulse. And like just like it becomes this whole thing continuously, and it's like at the end of the day, like how much are we stepping away from our nature as humans and like our connection with the earth, and like we don't need to go to the extreme of like living in the woods and like carrying a torch.
But what makes us human, right?
The cyborg quality that we have to just embrace. Like, hey, we are actually cyborgs now. So
and I've thought this for a long time already, but I think we're pretty much just here to make AI. Biological intelligence is like logically the next step of evolution for an efficient system of like gaining information, right? Let's just say that's what existence kind of is, right? You're just gaining information about your surroundings and learning how to live in it more efficiently. Every biological being does that, right? It learns about its environment, adapts to, oh, I need bigger teeth, or I need bigger claws, or I need a harder skin, whatever it is. You know what I mean? It adapts to its environment, and that's what like we are doing. Like the step that would make sense is that we create something that is non-biological to do a lot of the work for us, and so like we are just we are a precursor to a larger system that's better. Biology, unfortunately, we think our whole lives are wrapped around us being biological and being natural, but perhaps the upper echelons of intelligence are not that. They're maybe entirely made of robots.
This is a very masculine lens to be viewing the purpose and the driving force of our existence. And like 100%, I agree that is a huge quality of it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but like for the equation to be balanced, of like if we're calling that the masculine aspect, and again, like we can go into details about all of the trickle down qualities of that. It's a really, you made a very good general statement. Simultaneously, like if we're going to factor in the feminine part of the equation regarding like quality of life and comforts and communion and connection and like having enough of an awareness to be in rhythm with the cycles of the moon, and like seeing how these different languages are intrinsic to something that otherwise is hidden from sight because of the machination.
Sure, yeah, that's the natural side, I think. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that like there's no further purpose for like biological beings. You know what I'm saying? Like the logical step is us to create AI to create a larger intelligence database, right? But that doesn't mean that you entirely negate the existence of biology and what it means to have evolved biologically up to an intelligent society. And the things that are still have been yet to be revealed about us, like the different, like how biology can continue to evolve alongside those things. You know what I mean?
100%.
And those things are just as important. Those things are just as important. As I've always said, for a long time, I've always said that there's two ways that a society can choose to evolve, right? You can choose to evolve in a like cold, methodical, like way, and a goal towards efficiency, right? Like efficiency is number one, right? Yeah. Or you can evolve to explore connections of humans and love and nurturing and those aspects, and because there's about like art, you know what I'm saying? Like really, you know what I mean? And like there's a duality of that, you know what I mean? And I think that right now industry is definitely winning, you know what I mean? And I think that fortunately a lot of times it probably does win, you know what I mean? Because it's a little more cutthroat, it's a little bit more hard edged, right? You know?
Right. So like might means right type of thing, and like by merit of my desire to be dominant, am I dominant?
Yeah.
Versus like domination by means of rational approach and sensibility.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like that, this is still a continuation of barbarism into the modern day, which is contradicting itself because it speaks in the language by which it appears as if it's civilized and wanting the best for as long as everyone conforms to its ideas and its conditions. And then that reinforces the same narrative around why censorship and why, you know what I mean? Like just all of these different issues where it's just like, well, let's look at the reality regarding mental health and like the serious problems even within addiction of the people that are claiming an authority. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it's you know, it's like, yeah, where does it go from there?
I don't know.
That's a good thing.
I don't know. You know what I mean? It's like I don't know. It doesn't mean that it's. I don't know that I believe like it's over for us. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. It just means for me. It just seems like it's just logical. Like in the way that it goes. Like at least the way that it goes for our society. You know what I mean? Once you create AI, it's done. You know what I mean? I have to. I don't know, imagine that other societies would have a similar trajectory of technology, right? You know what I mean? We might all in similar ways uncover, you know, technologies that allow us to communicate and share information in faster and better ways. You know what I'm saying?
We're certainly in uncharted territory in this modern day.
Right, yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like the point that you were making before is like AI is certainly exposing the redundancy of a lot of careers and like how much people's security has been like anchored upon what they already knew, that their job is essentially meaningless and it's just a busy thing to maintain the same structure of like you went to elementary school and you sat down and you shut up and you listened. You know what I mean? And like the subordination
you graduated and
of
you
free
got
will.
Your job and
you got resume. When do you start? You know what I mean? It's just like, okay,
jump right in the system, jump right in the river. Go ahead.
Right, and it's just like we could argue again, like in the way that even conversations, and we'll see where it goes with different interviews maybe down the road. So I'll keep that simple for now. But like just the fears and the concerns with some artists, even in this space, but just generally speaking, regarding like how they're going to be reduced to a redundancy by the emergence of AI, getting into this territory where it's like, what, like again, like where do we as humans find the real joy of our existence and like the real intimacy with craft? And it's just like, sure, like we could build the technologies that allow for these things to be made very meticulously and like different algorithms for different patterns, but like what, again, like where do we really like begin our own exercise and take it seriously of like it's our business, our business moving forward is actually community. Right. You know what I mean? Because like all the other things are like now we're finally
going to be handled pretty much.
Right, like we finally, hey, we got here, we're on this
which is great.
Platform.
Which is great, I think.
Yeah,
100%. Like it allows the time, it gets to be the time of the thinker, right? For a long time.
Renaissance,
we have a long time to think, all of our daily things are going to be taken care of. You know what I mean? As long as we don't just like submit to say, hey, whatever. The apocalyptic idea that people get of AI becoming robots and killing everybody or putting everybody in cages. Unlikely to happen, right? But this is time is going to give us a lot of time. Like if resources are allocated and distributed correctly, you know what I mean? I mean, I know Elon Musk I don't really care for the man, but he was speaking about how the world currency would have to change and we'd have to distribute goods in a way that's fair to everyone because jobs are going to become obsolete.
Right.
But we will have the resources to be able to maintain everyone with abundance. You know what I mean? Which we already have. Right. But it's about 100%. Right. But it's about allocating it correctly. So Absolutely. Think about that and like think about how if everything goes according to plan and it's cool and it's chill, potentially we find a balance and a symbiotic with what we've created and the world around us and the amount of time it'll give us to reflect as people and reconnect to nature and stuff, right? You know what I mean?
Preach.
So it kind of comes back around, you know what I mean? Like, whereas we're relying on it, but it kind of gives us the space to, like, really settle back down and say, hey, like, there's a lot.
It gives me chills thinking about that because it's so true about, like, we're going so far in this direction and seemingly separating ourselves from nature, but it's actually looping back around. Right. And it's completing the chain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
We're about to be fucking laying around lakes and we're fucking naked and shit again. You know what I mean? Like, for real. That's like, we'll become loungers again. You know what I mean? We'll be able to.
Again, it's confronting that the fear.
Well, most of us, not all of us, because there's still a percentage of us that are going to be like, why?
Because I won't be satisfied.
No, exactly, for sure. Because the percentage is always there, all the time. It's going to be there.
Yeah, but I know the value. Definitely seeing that as the work done, like being able to like lay by the lake and just like strong. But like that's not that's. As it often is, I think, within the industry of vacation, of people like have such a longing to go places where it's just really such a strong call for themselves to address their own nervous system and how much they're discordant and they just need time. Right. Like you could do that anywhere, truly. Right, you don't need to go to the Bahamas.
Right.
That's
just
nice.
Get out of that 40 hours a week, 5 days a week or whatever.
Yeah.
Because that's what really crushes the taking the time all the time.
And getting back to that point that you made about like society can go in two separate ways and like what has become a driving force like because they think it's the intelligent way because we're so dumb that like we need to figure out the equations for the least amount of resources to get to the stupid people so that they're driven by survival to rise up and be creative and make ends meet. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And that's at least how, because of, again, like the artificiality, because we could go even more into like, Texas City as just like, as an example of like, okay, well, these resources are being extracted from the earth. And obviously like you need to have a very tremendous engineering mind and very like, I mean, like that's not my realm. And that's incredible for the refinement and the distillation of these things for like us to be able to
Everyday use.
like for us to be able to sit here and have this conversation.
Right,
Like we're standing upon privilege despite the problems that we have in our own personal lives. Like
Right.
and like that even the art is a like the media that you're using and the paints and things. It's just like again, it's just like to just take a moment to be like, wow, it's really
Petroleum
incredible.
products.
But like
Yeah.
it is like at the end of the day, like this is this not qualities of our collective wealth? You know,
Sure,
that like
absolutely, 100%.
and like it's like what gives merit. And again, like this is I think there's a lot of propaganda around socialism and how it's defined and by whose lens are we viewing the concept. And we could go into communism and even like monarchies and dictatorships, and it's like it's the same analogy that I look at politics in the same sort of way as I look at religions, like universal religions. It's just like they all have something, they're all contributing to the whole from different angles, but they can't see what is on the other side of the image. You know what I mean? So like they're flawed in them being total, but upon with themselves in accordance with like just how it's applied and like what's relative, because like that's
a system.
On and on,
Right,
man.
That's religion as a system, right? How it affects it helps us, right? Faith, really. You know what I mean?
Right.
Or the idea that we do know it all. That's a really secure thing for a lot of people.
Do you distinguish religion from faith?
I think that a lot of times for people, faith is religion is a pathway to faith, right? They're like presented. Here's the answers. Okay, now I read them. I agree. Cool. Now I got faith in it. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
And that like is a thing that I think is powerful for people to know that everything's gonna be all right. You know what I'm saying? Like there's definitely like the existential, like the big nothing type of shit. It can be a little like disheartening. You know what I mean? And it can feel vast and like purposeless, right? You know what I mean? But if you have faith and if you have a religion, you know, then like it helps you bring purpose in and have the faith that all of this is for something. I don't know what exactly, but it's for something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that is a huge, beautiful concept and a great thing. You know, and I have faith that I don't know what the fuck it is all for, but that whatever I'm contributing will have some sort of an effect to go in the right direction. You know what I mean? I don't know what it is. But my insight, whatever, my sharing of my art, whatever it is, like all those things that will have, hopefully, if it inspires one person, it inspires another person, it inspires one, whatever, even if it's in a minute way, those like effects can last a lifetime. You know what I mean? Like, I know that I've personally impacted people's lives by having discussions with them one-on-one. You know what I mean? Like, I've had several people in my life, you know, be like, oh my God, you impacted my life. Like, you made me see things in different ways from having these, you know, maybe some drugged up conversations and shit, right? But like, you know, still like sharing thoughts and ideas is like number one for me. That's what eye doctor means. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Because first I wanted to be a philosopher. I wanted to be a philosopher first. That was like what I really liked. That was my first idea of what I wanted to be as a kid. I'm like third grade. You know what I mean? Like, okay, I'm looking around. All I do is think about all this shit all the time. You know what I mean? Like, I want to be a philosopher. That's like, I want to like write books and share ideas on it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
But that's like important. That's my drive. Is that I feel like for whatever reason, it has some purpose to shed light on. If it changes one person's mind and makes them see the world in a better place, a better way, or makes them happier, or makes them more driven towards a goal, or whatever it is, you know what I mean? Then that gives purpose enough for me to keep endeavoring what I'm doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, a fearless approach, because it sounds in all of this that you've just shared that you've confronted the compulsion driving your motive forward, and you've grown in relationship with it, and like you've accepted the demon as opposed to seeing it as something that's outside, and like you need to have faith in this institution to make sure that the imaginary hounds that live in the night, you know what I mean, that like they're not getting over the wall, and like that you're a peasant and that you're a cuck, and like this is enough, and like even that is like that there's still an unaddressed anxiety that like needs to be reinforced by some authoritarian figure that's claiming the role of shepherd in those different capacities. You know, it's like, again, it calls into question, like, what is the archetypically speaking, what is the role of a priest within any society? And like, how is that structured? How is the identity of a priest really exemplified in any place without it being associated with some like already structured identity? That was a loaded question.
Yeah, I think I got I deciphered what you said there.
Good coffee.
Well, I mean, I don't know. The role of the priest is to be the like soothsayer in a way, right? Like to give direction to people who that large percentage of people who just want to live their life and be happy and do their thing. That's who they're for. You know what I mean? Like I figured out religion was a sham whenever I was a kid. I was like, man, I got a religion, they got a religion, they got a religion. And then I'm reading this book called Aesop's Fables. Like the Bible is just a bunch of fables. It's just a bunch of moral stories. Like that's all that it is, and it's applied culturally to different areas.
Heretic.
This is like probably I think third grade or so. You know what I mean? And I'm like, okay, that's not for me. You know what I mean? I had more fun probably talking to the preacher than I had talking to anybody in the congregation. You know what I'm saying? Because those are the people that like they're contemplating life sometimes through, you know, the lens of whatever their religion is. You know what I mean? They're contemplating life and death and purpose and morals and ethics and like how to live your life, right? You know what I mean? And they're supposed to be a conduit to like at least this one, you know, sliver of how you can look at the whole. You know what I mean? And gain something from it. So the priest really to me is, I mean, I guess it depends on the context of time period and all that shit. But you know, like it's got a pretty important role for the average person. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. It's like it's the indigenous psychologist of any space. Right. And like we could even say, like again, there's so many things to say about that. And it's like because of again the interesting position that a priest has to be within a culture of like that they're 100% not needed. They're not really contributing functionally to anything. That they're by merit of everyone seeing the validity of them existing, and that they're having the opportunity to live outside of it, but live within it and above it. That they can look at what's really going and have the time to have the conversations. And it's almost like in different ways, like a pinnacle potential that like is serving for, I guess, like the transference of that knowledge into people's lives that maybe don't have access to those contemplative times.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Anyway.
Sure. Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I guess maybe, I don't know what my role is necessarily in life, right? But I mean, I've anointed myself eye doctor, which is a pretty like lofty title and like, you know, in its meaning of like helping people see the world better, you know, helping people see the world around them better. For me to believe in myself and having like more to share, be more important than anyone else, you know what I mean? Perhaps it's foolish or like arrogant or something, you know what I mean? But I do believe in myself, and I do believe that I've got things to say that are relevant and insightful enough, you know what I mean? And I just try to approach it from a place of humility as much as possible, you know what I mean?
Right.
And I don't know, it's kind of priest-like in a way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the flavor. That's definitely the flavor of it. And again, the interesting relationship between the wise one and the foolish one. Two sides of the same coin. It's like, how is that being flipped? And like, of course, like, you know, making that claim of yourself to be the eye doctor, right? Is like you made that commitment to yourself, and you initiated yourself into your own manhood at that moment that you chose that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like, it's such, it's a big claim.
Yeah.
You know, and that's an enduring path to access the top of that mountain.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
But like,
absolutely.
so it's like it's very easy for at the beginning growth and the development of like, this guy is such a con.
Sure.
Like, look at he's just like, it's all a facade, it's all a front, it's all overcompensation. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like,
yeah.
You know, like wanting to claim the authority of seeing clearly what reality is.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Which is not like a definite thing. You know what I mean? Obviously, I am no perfect fucking person, you know what I mean, or whatever. But yeah, it is kind of. I guess sometimes I think about it and I'm like, a little much. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
But you know, it is a lofty. I think that like I've always tried to. I mean, even me starting out to draw, like whenever I started first drawing, I used to just fill up pages of paper with lines. That was all I did. I actually was inspired by a friend of mine who would draw these like full-page stick figure scenes of them like fighting and jumping around. They had all this motion to them. But I put in myself this like unattainable goal of drawing the perfect line. About like 11 or 12 years old, I was like, I'm gonna try to draw the perfect line. That's all my goal is. So I just filled up pieces of paper with different lines, like I don't know how many, lots of them, and that was my pursuit. You know what I mean? So it gave me this like, unattainable goal, but like through the pursuit, you know what I mean? My hand is sharp as it can be now.
Yeah, super clean. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We share a lot in common. I'll have to share my art with you some of these days.
Yeah,
one of these
for
days.
sure.
But like, it's very, again, like how much. It's not even for anybody else, but just
Right.
how fucking clean. Like, it just feels so good.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You know, where it's like,
yeah.
that fucking loop was
Uh-huh.
just tight. You know what I mean?
Right,
Just
right.
like, again, like these different aspects of like you can't go into it with a strategy. You got to just trust that like it's
Sure.
moving through the hand and like
Yeah,
that.
absolutely.
Again, like that practice that it's like, it's a form of tantra, or it's a form of shamanic really integration of like, okay, like I'm by merit of me sitting and doing this, and I don't know what this is going to be, but I am starting with, I'm starting with the eye, and I'm going to expand upon the design as is natural, and as each curve shows itself.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then when it's done, it will tell me.
Yeah,
You know what I
for
mean?
sure.
And like
100%.
that's like, how do we carry that? Like, and again, it's like one could argue that that's more of a feminine quality of self
Sure.
that is
yeah.
also like needing to be brought into these masculine qualities of like, okay,
Yeah,
like
perhaps.
how do I bring that actually into integration? And again, because like by merit of like posting these on buildings, or putting stickers up, or even like playing in the waters of social media. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anyway, that was a lot to say.
That was good. It's cool. I was right there. I'm right there with you. Okay.
What truly moves you / inspires you to be an artist? How would you define your relationship with this source of inspiration?
Okay. So it'd be philosophy, really, more or less, or like contemplation.
We danced around this question,
Yeah,
so I
just
just
a second ago.
tighten
Yeah.
it up.
So yeah, like I said, I gave myself the pursuit of the perfect line, of course, which doesn't exist, But also, like through that time, I was in a place where I spent a lot of my time, thinking and just trying to, like, find my answers.
It's gonna be fun.
Find my answers to the questions that I had about life and shit. Yeah.
Hopefully that's not ruined. Dude.
No, I don't. It's just not even my table.
Sorry.
I'm sorry. Doesn't matter. Someone carved this last class in there, though.
What's that?
Yeah,
Of course, I found this out.
Yeah, it must have been my old studio.
Yeah, our whole set is a generous donation from the environment surrounding us.
Oh, for sure.
So I apologize, and I also thank you for it.
Yeah. Cool place. The whole place is pretty organic. But yeah. So, was it the question? My inspiration?
So you
Motivation?
were tasked with finding the impossible with the perfect line,
Right,
and
yeah,
meeting you where you're at.
Well, that's so. Like I said, I always wanted to really be a philosopher, and yeah. So that's really kind of what it all, like drawing. I had a drawing class. Like I had, like the teachers had to let me draw in class, or I would cut up. You know what I mean? So like I either had to have something in my hand keeping me busy, because this teacher was not stimulating enough, right? So that they learned pretty quickly. Like once I started drawing regularly, they learned like, okay, let him draw, and he's not gonna fucking crack smart ass jokes throughout the whole class. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I'm listening, because they always test me on that. They're like, well, what's the answer to this? To something they just said, and I blurt out the answer. You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
I would just walk around the hallways and stuff like that. Like I would just, and like it was again like that unspoken awareness of like this person knows what they're doing, but like they just,
right.
like it's just so boring. Like it's just
It's so
obvious.
boring.
It's a confinement.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, for sure. And they knew. And I grew up in Texas City, which is a bunch of refinery workers. And my dad is like one of the sharpest ones. You know what I mean? He's the one who's always like got the joke, and like whenever he's just quick, and spend a lot of time in the bars and stuff. So like everybody, I was just I could roast the teacher or whatever. Anything that was happening, like I was gonna make a crack, and it was gonna make the whole class laugh, and it's gonna be disruptive. You know what I mean? So they learned quick to let me draw. You know what I mean? But through that,
It's in your blood.
Yeah, it like made it. Whenever the teacher's talking, whatever, it would let me focus and like take a part of my mind that was it could like whatever settle it down. But I use it on times whenever I wasn't, in a classroom or whatever on my own time to sit and think about life really and just think about all these dumb questions that I had. You know what I mean? Well, not dumb questions, but like those questions that you have as like as a thinker or whatever. You know what I mean?
What the hell?
What's it all for? What's it all for? That kind of shit. So that's what I mean. Like that's my whole all my art just pretty much comes from the necessity for me to sit and think. You know what I mean? And I wanted to be a philosopher
dude,
first.
It's such a trip. And then with you sharing this at this point, and then considering what you shared about your cocaine behavior, and like almost that was like a if I'm just gonna be like shooting quick at it, but just like even tell me if I'm wrong, but it that type of thinking compounds upon itself to get to the point of like and trying to find commonality and common experience, you know what I mean, and just like feeling like everything is so superficial and like that there's something else going on but it's not accessible and it's just like, well, fuck it.
Oh yeah,
fuck it. What? Why not? Why not just fucking?
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, what can I do to just numb that voice and dumb it? Like really find concordance with other people because like it's not enough. It's not satisfying. It's not there.
Right. Yeah. And people on cocaine want to talk.
What they're talking about is the whole thing.
Yeah, be talking for sure. You know what I'm saying? It's not like you're in a room full of drunk people. People are coked up. Oh yeah. And I love to talk. I love to talk to people. I love to especially on a one-on-one basis. Like large groups of people, if I get overwhelmed, I start to get shy and anxious, and I'm like, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
People. If it's a group at work, like 5 or 6 dudes on shit. Cool, like that's cool. We know each other. Blah blah. We're in a bunch of people that I don't fucking know. Yeah, people on coke love to talk, and I love to talk to people and learn and bring up things that I'm thinking about to someone else and get their thoughts on it, and then it can go either like, okay, well that makes me think this, or like I'll debate things. I'll bring up points I don't even believe in. I don't even care. It doesn't matter because I'm just trying to learn more about a subject. You know what I mean? Like if I'm talking about it, you know what I mean? I'm just trying to learn more about it. Get your perspective. Okay, well then there's this. All right, well maybe what about this? What do you think? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like a springboard sometimes. You know what I mean? A lot of times it's more of like a springboard. You know what I mean? It's a backboard to talk. You know what I mean? And give people ideas off. And do you find people contribute and have insightful things, insightful viewpoints all the time? You know what I mean? You never know where that insight will come from. You know what I mean? And that's part of the reason why, I guess I try to be humble about my approach. You know what I mean? I do have this pursuit of enlightenment or whatever the fuck it is. You know what I mean? That I've had since I was young. You know what I mean? But I don't try to act like I've got to figure out any more than any other person. Because some person can drop a fucking nugget of knowledge on you and oh shit. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? You can't write anybody off, so you have to still maintain a humble approach. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's also eye doctors. The eyes represent a different perspective. The first cloud eyes that I did, the first stickers that I did, they were clouds, with eyes on them, and they were just literally representing different perspectives. That's all that they were meant to represent was just a different way of looking at it. Oh, this sticker is in a spot you would have never ever noticed that spot before. You passed by a million times. But now you're looking at it, you see it, that's a perspective, you realize that's perspective now, and it affects somebody subconsciously and deliberately to make them look at their surroundings differently. So it affected a perspective, brought them a new perspective, right? You know what I mean? And the multitude of perspectives is the only way you can get, for me, that I believe, is the closer you can get to the truth or enlightenment or whatever. You have to encompass as much of it as possible. You know what I'm saying?
Right, because it's that whole why the homogeneous mind is doomed for disease and decay by merit of its one angular approach.
Right,
we could see that within agriculture, monoculture.
Sure, yeah,
It's leading to another form of desertification, and again, there's so many things to say about that, but just versus a really flourishing an abundant forest that is untamed and the diversity of it, and like there's new bugs that are being like mutated or whatever, by merit of its own fucking design. It's just like, okay, let's see what fucking happens here.
Yeah.
Okay, that didn't work. Well,
some of that thing is eating me too much. I need to get a fucking horn or something. You know what I mean? Whatever it is, you know.
Yeah, that's
sharper teeth. I need venom, or I need like a hard shell, whatever it is. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's just like, we'll save that for another time regarding like, where does that conversation start within a sentience with the creator,
right,
of like, okay, like where do those adaptive traits actually come into play, and like over what span of time, and like also like, again, we could look at it through very many different poetic lenses regarding like the pantheon of spiritual entities that are like anyway, I'll save that for dude. That's a lot. You know what I mean? Because like I think that speaks to like demonology in real ways, where like it's more of an understanding of like these voices have a place, but they've been neglected for so damn long that like we're way out of practice. We're untrained in understanding what their language is, and then we express our barbarism and like our lack of development because like we're confining ourselves within these parameters of right behavior that is just another machination, and it's like, oh well, hey, we're just fucking doomed. We're all we're it's like, oh Jesus, please, you know what I mean? It's just like, okay, all right. You know what I mean? It's like, please, like we're all sexual beings, okay, like how do we do that in a way that's merited and it isn't perverted, because like it starts, like the pressure upon it, like, and then it starts to like spread, and it spreads in these different directions where it's not appropriate, because like, again, like anyway, dude, on and on that whole point goes. Just very strange to witness,
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's go to the next one.
Yeah, what are the questions you got?
This is the final one. I feel like we danced around questions 1 and 2. Yeah, I think they're all sort of fun. The last one is really about community. How important is community to you in relation to your creative expression? Does it drive your future vision? Do you hold a future vision in relation to your art?
Yeah, sure. Community. I mean, for my individual art, for the art that I make, I mean, yeah, I put it out, and I try not to. I don't know. It affects the community. It affects the world around me. You know what I mean? The street art community and the graffiti community is like, take it or leave it. You know what I mean? Like, it's cool. The graffiti community is rampant with a lot of shitheads, a lot of cool people too, but I think that I would do what I do regardless of the community that would be around it. You know what I mean?
So do you then consider that to be a community itself?
What, like street graffiti?
Well, with what you just said, it feels like there's no like developed design or intentionality behind it, and it's not something that's developing more genuine. It's not deepening connections.
No, I mean they're definitely like there's people that that do their thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like thrive on community and stuff like that. But I'm just an individualist person too. You know what I mean? Like I stay pretty close to myself. You know what I mean? Like I have a lot of friends. You know what I mean? And I got a lot of peers and stuff. You know what I mean? But I have few close friends. You know what I'm saying? Like, I work at a dance club. You know what I mean? Like, I got a lot of friends, and I've been in town and partied a bunch. I got a lot of friends. But close friends, people that know me on the day-to-day, not really. You know what I mean? That's just, I don't know. And that's kind of just part of who I am, I think. You know what I mean? Like, I kind of just, like, move, I don't know. I like to stay light. If that makes any sense. I mean, I don't know if you relate to that, like, as a traveler. Right? You know what I mean? Like, you have people and you make connections along the way, right? But, I don't know.
Yeah, it's an interesting, especially maybe on a personal level within myself, of like, by merit of, and again, like, not to make it a sob story, and I'll do my own interview and answer my own questions eventually, but like, just because like, that whole story within my own life of like how much rejection that I faced, and how much like being ostracized from like the environment that I was brought into, because like it can't handle questions, and it doesn't want to like sensibly address issues to move forward into better designs. You know what I mean? And like, so it's like in that sort of seeking over all of these years and like going into the places and, you know, seeing by merit of like a sense of creative impulse within those spaces that there might be more access for conversations, but even still, like there's a lot of limitations around, you know, so like there's this unspoken social rule that in many ways I think hinders a new type of development that I think is actually really conducive towards like new perspective of what community actually means versus like, you know, that sense of like connection and relevancy within personal relationships by merit of like that their predictable pattern of like they're going to show up here and I'm going to show up here, so we might as well, you know, just get to know each other and just like, you know, like there's not and like keeping it light of course is important, and it gets a lot heavier when we start to get into like commitments and we start to talk about like accountability, you know what I mean? And like that's a lot, in my opinion, like that's what's necessary to shift away from like a corporate identity or these, you know, like obviously, you know, you find value in having the jobs that you have, and like that there's nothing wrong with that. You know what I mean?
Right.
But like there's a part of you that's, I'm making a judgment claim here, but like there's a part of you that also wants to do things differently.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Of course, yeah.
And it's like, how do we like?
I got a job in the meantime until you know what I mean, until I can get myself where, you know, I'm in more control of my life, like, you know, from top to bottom, financially and everything else. You know what I'm
saying? Yeah, and like those leaps to make, you know, to cross that gap, you know, like those. It's like I feel like oftentimes people. And it goes that way with a lot of things of like we can gradually transition, you know, through experiences into different types of experiences, but I do think it leads to a particular ledge where there needs to be like that initiation of the leap of faith, so to say, to make it across.
Right.
You know what I mean? And like you can do all the analytics and all the mathematics around the right effort and, you know, like when's the good day for that, but it takes that moment of just fucking doing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
And like that's, again, it's like part of, you know, this question I was wanting to lead definitely into like your project and what your aim is with like bring people together and having it more cohesive and like, you know, stepping into your own type of leadership.
Yeah, for sure. So like the initial sense, that's more, I guess, of my personal community, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But my like, I've always had a sense of like my artistic community, you know what I mean, and trying to be a leader in some way. I put out a zine in like 2015, like a street art graffiti zine, and had a couple of parties with that. And then I said like I had an art cult, which is like a cross section of music, like a lot of punk and hip hop, and then artists like graffiti and whatever, you know. So that, but now I'm trying to like use, I don't know what you would say, use my connections for good, to like for a higher purpose, right? You know what I mean? And that's the like Vandalism Education Program, you know what I mean? And like teaching people how to use vandalism as a form of protest, you know, and the skills that I've acquired and that a lot of other people around me have acquired is how to effectively utilize vandalism to make a message, right? You know what I mean? And currently, most of the time, the message is like an individual, you know, either their name with graffiti or their repetitive image with street art, you know what I mean? But to take those things and show the public how to express their own personal opinions, and like hopefully the collective consciousness and ideas more effectively to the public through vandalism. You know, which is a powerful tool. I really believe it's a powerful tool. So that is something that I'm working on. I've started reaching out to some artists. I'm going to sign up for a Dropbox and make a Dropbox soon. I'm not sure what it's going to be called yet, but I think it's going to be something like, I don't know, Vandalism is Protest Program or something like that. You know, I don't know.
I love the Vandalism Education Program. It sounds really crisp. I think, you know, like having like a real
I know, but I think
like
the
a
word,
coat of arms.
using the word vandalism is going to immediately put me at odds. Because they could clearly like point to that and say that organization encourages vandalism, which I just don't want that. You know what I'm saying? I'd rather like take an approach. It's a little bit more.
You're ready for that heat.
No, no. I mean, in a way, yeah, but like, you still have to self-preserve to be effective in your fucking mission, right? You know what I'm saying? You don't want to just, I don't know. I don't think.
I feel like I again, like, because I'm looking at like, oh, I want to see that show play out, but
Sure.
like I do think, generally speaking, society is ripe
Oh
for
yeah.
something like
Oh
that.
yeah, for sure.
And like,
yeah.
if someone was to see Vandalism Education Program like that, I believe that could be interpreted as if you're trying to bring structure into a space that obviously is like by its merit like very untamed.
Sure. Yeah.
You know, so like that could be something that is actually merited for support.
Sure. Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
what I
Like
mean?
there's I think it's Seattle. Portland has the Graffiti Defense Coalition, which is like a group of attorneys that whenever vandals are caught, they represent them in court, which is sick.
Definitely.
You know what I mean? So like, there are people that support. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there are vandals in your midst, like all the time. People don't know it, but there are vandals among us. I promise you that. You know what I mean? And because a lot of people are secretive about it, they're not going to tell you shit. You know what I mean? I've known people for years, and they didn't know that I was eye doctor. And then I said, "Oh, I'm eye doctor." They're like, "What? Really?" Like, and like people that was just a different part of my life. You know what I mean? It wasn't. We were like bar buddies or whatever. You know what I mean? And then and then he comes out whatever years later. You know what I mean? So they're in your midst for sure, and you could be a vandal too. You just enroll in the Vandalism Education Program.
There we go. It's official.
But yeah.
Name to be determined. But
Sure,
that's
yeah. But generally,
yeah.
generally, that's, and that's just to help people get active in their communities, in response and rebuttal to some of the things that are going on. You can take the power and put it in your own hands and affect your environment. You can do it. Promise you. I'm going to teach you how to do it.
And again, it's not a means to an end because it doesn't end there. It's
No,
more,
absolutely not. No.
It's more of like creating tension against a fabricated story regarding our civilization.
Right. And
And
it's solidifying our environments, our neighborhoods together, and like seeing that there's more people that are going to be with us than against.
Absolutely, this is a necessary step in the right direction for as long as it's known that there's so much beyond the horizon that is more in a holistic approach where we don't need to be taking such extreme actions, and we don't really desire for that, but it's just what is being called for the sake of personal integrity.
Sure, yeah.
You know what I mean? Because otherwise, like, yeah, we might as well just slit our throats than become, you know what I mean?
Right, for sure.
Wow. Well, hey, any closing thoughts?
Don't do drugs, kids.
Unless you want to.
Unless you want, but just be careful.
Yeah, all action has consequence, and
Yeah.
oftentimes we don't see them until they're right in our faces.
This is true. Yeah, actually, we never got into my art show that I did about drugs, but
Well, hey, why not? You want to touch on it? Okay.
Well, I mean, I could like wrap it up pretty quick, but so like I said, 2 years ago, this would be a conclusion. 2 years ago, I got clean off drugs, right? But I had lost everything to that point. I was living in my apartment for about 3 months without power.
Why?
And because I stopped paying the bill. So I was
Okay.
buying drugs.
A form of squatting.
No, I wasn't. No. So what happened was I did get evicted, and I had like a meeting. I had like a Zoom call with the judge, right, that morning. Gave me the eviction date for like 72 hours later, right? So I did an art show in my apartment with no power called Addiction Exposed, and so I had taken all my furniture out because I wasn't sure when his eviction was going to come down. So I had been sleeping on this like pallet on the floor, which is just surrounded with like Lone Star cans and Jameson bottles and Coke bags and cigarette butts. You know what I mean? And like art in random areas. You know what I mean? But yeah. So like
Rock
this is
star life right there, man.
yeah,
Holy
for
shit.
sure. So this is like my biggest cry for help, and I guess I'm saying this to say, hey, don't follow my fucking footsteps. It's not as romantic as it fucking seems.
It doesn't seem romantic.
No, I know. But people play it that way, right? Like I said earlier, like, you know, when I was young,
Yeah.
there was a romanticism to like the excessive lifestyle, drugs, shit.
Until
But
you're
so I upped the romantic level in there by candlelight. That's how I had the art show. I had the art show by candlelight. You know what I mean?
very intimate, very personal.
Yeah, and it really kind of like, you know, it touched on the romanticism of, you know, drug abuse and the artist and the struggling artist and that kind of thing. That's what it was kind of, you know, that's what it signified. And then I was also selling souvenirs, which you know, you open up when you're done with the Coke bag, you open it up and you lick it, right? Whatever. I had dozens and dozens of those, you know, just like in one spot. So I took them and I signed to my doctor, and I gave people the option. I said, I got these souvenirs here for you. You know, if you'd like, I get signed this lick bag. You can have it. Says eye doctor. Sells you $20. Or you can do a line of cocaine with me right here, and that could be your souvenir. But you're not intended, right? This went right over people's head. You're not intended to take the line with me because I'm literally getting evicted from my apartment right there, and you're standing in the midst of it with no power, you know. And I'm showing you this is called addiction exposed. So you could choose in that moment, right, to either support in a healthy way by taking the souvenir of the Coke bag, you know what I mean, or you can do the like enabling friend, right, you know, who prolongs your addiction by giving me $20 and doing a line with me. And more people did Coke with me that day than was intended. It was probably a dozen or more people who all bought, you know, Coke line, and like not seeing the writing on the wall. But so the only difference was that I would not embrace. I wouldn't say anything to the person who bought the line from me. I wouldn't say anything to them. I just do the line. That's it. But if somebody bought one of the Coke bags from me, I'd embrace them and say thank you for your support. It really means a lot to me. Like you know, I get tears in my eyes, kind of shit. You know what I'm saying? Thinking about it now, even. And it was a start. It was like I saw a few people have that in their fucking heads. Like while I just supported him. He didn't embrace me. He didn't, you know, say thank you to me. And then they'd see me embrace someone who supported me in a healthy way, and you know, to once again the symbolism of like, you know,
Right.
enabling in a healthy way and
Yeah.
the unhealthy way, which most people choose. You know what I mean? People know. And I had spoken about my addiction for years to people, and like, you know, then I picked up shit. I'm like, I gotta get off this shit. Like most of us, I got a problem, man. We need to fucking get off of it. You know what I mean? And I'd said it. I was very open about it, very candid about it for like a couple of years. You know what I'm saying? And then then I did that, and that was the last time I did Coke. Well, it was like I did like a week or two more after that, and then it was like one day I was like, okay, this is it. This is for real. It's like 9 a.m. I told my girlfriend at the time, it's the last bag I'm doing. She's like, no, put it away, so you know you don't do all of it, and then whatever. I was like, no, this is it. I'm gonna do this last little bit right here. I know it's 9 a.m. This fucking sucks, but like doing it, and this is gonna be it. You know what I mean? I can't keep having it on me and it'll just snowball again. And then luckily it didn't. Luckily I stopped, you know.
What was that withdrawal for you? How did that feel?
Well, Coke doesn't have a physical withdrawal, luckily. It's all psychological.
Yeah.
So, oh man, I don't know.
Let's see to it. You were telling me something that was wrong. I'm sick of it already.
Yeah, I had been to this myself. I had tried. So December 2019, I take my dad. So I did that, and then, you know, COVID happened, right? And I stayed clean until May, and then I fell back slowly. Then it led to the worst. Yeah, so I've been at it. I had been like trying, you know what I mean? But I didn't, even still to this day, it's still like finding community is something like I'm trying to lean more into, like trying to find like that time to just have more connections with people, you know what I mean? And like peers and stuff like that, because I know that I need it, you know what I mean? Like, I know that I need it. In those places, those avenues that I was exploring before, they're just not viable. You know what I mean? Like my nightlife friends, it's just not viable. Some of them, sure. Just, you know, the ones who are more the dabblers or the weekend warriors or whatever, you know what I mean? But most of my friends were in it 5, 6, 7 days a week, just like me. You know what I mean? Like, all, like, starting at like 11 p.m. going to 8 a.m., 9 a.m. You know what I mean? Sometimes I wouldn't sleep for days. Days. You know what I mean? Like, just going hard. But, don't do drugs.
Very interesting.
Yeah, they did another show in October, and it was called Outback.
What was that
Yeah.
about?
This is about being at the bank. It was
Okay.
kind of like my return. It was like pretty much a lot of the work that I had done in my sobriety, because it's exploring some different stuff. You know what I mean? It's not just so eye doctor. This is eye doctor. This is bread and butter eye doctor. All of it's me, but that's really bread and butter eye doctor. But anyway,
Well,
that's the conclusion.
Well, there's 1,000 different questions that I can
Yeah.
ask, but I'll keep it simple, man. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you
of
for
your
having me.
life.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
contributing to this. And
Yeah.
hopefully to regarding
Sure.
integration for collaboration and recognition.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
doing something. Yeah.
This is Eye Doctor. I'll have your links, but is there anywhere we can find you?
Instagram, I'm at EYE_DR. Or if you look up hashtag eye doctor, I'll probably come up pretty close to the top. It's like only one eye doctor artist that I know of so far. So,
Super clean, man.
Yeah.
Thanks. That was
yeah.
real tight.
Thank you.
All right. Until again.
Mm-hmm.